and I took Lake City by quote-unquote $1 billion in the play-in game.
On the North Idaho Prepcast, we're all about that North Idaho life.
Man, you talk about Wallace and what they've been able to do this year. Quietly just being, the steady stalwart up north in District 1. They've been dominant.
From Bonners Ferry all the way down to Grangeville, we tackle the biggest stories in North Idaho sports.
This Genesee team is for real. We know what we saw last year. They're I think in the driver's seat to repeat.
It's the North Idaho Prepcast with Ryan Scaggs. That is right. Welcome in another edition of the North Idaho Prepcast here on IdahoSports.com, breaking down District 1 and 2 activities week in, week out in the great state of Idaho. My name is Brandon Baney. Let's bring on our North Idaho expert, Ryan Scaggs. Yo, what's up, Scaggs?
Not too much. Just finally enjoying a day of sunshine out there and ready for continue the craziness that is postseason athletics in the state of Idaho.
Yeah, I think up here in North Idaho, we have officially reached what we describe as gray season, where it's just gray outside all the time, right?
Yeah, today's like the nice reprieve of sunshine, and then you look at the weather forecast and you got rain for the next 3 days. So
yes,
playoffs and bad weather, it goes hand in hand with playoff football up here in North Idaho. So, yeah.
Those are true words to be certain. And speaking of the football playoffs, we did James State game day a little earlier in the week. We did it last night, Tuesday evening, on the IdahoSports.com YouTube channel, Facebook page, and X account. For those that may not know, James State game day is our standalone football show we've been doing all fall long, usually on Thursday mornings live. But for the playoffs, since there will be Thursday games and we want to give people enough time to digest the matchups, we'll be doing James State game day live every Tuesday night, either 7 o'clock or 8 o'clock Pacific time in the evenings. The time is still flexible somewhat, depending on what works best for the group. But man, Scaggs, we talked for over 2 hours last night, breaking down every single first round match. I'll be honest, I'm still kind of recovering from that.
Yeah, it was the insomniac's delight last night. Let's just put it that way.
I mean, we said something about every single team. So if you missed out on that, you can go back and watch that, of course, anytime at the IdahoSports.com YouTube channel, Facebook page, and X account. Hey, look at this. Our good friend Max Oswald from the Bonner County Daily Bee in the chat. Good morning. Yeah, top of the morning to you, Max. I haven't had enough
last night too in the comment section. So he's a night owl and an early riser. So
dude, he grinds. Nobody's out there grinding more than
I don't know of any other press guy that's riding buses. He rode the bus this year, and I think he's one of one in the state that probably does that.
Yeah. And Max can correct this if I'm wrong, but he is a sports staff of one for 2 papers, Bonners Ferry Herald and the Bonner County Daily Bee. It's just remarkable what he continues to do week in, week out for the folks up there in North Idaho, as it were.
far nether reaches of the Panhandle. Yeah, he's a great dude and does awesome work. So he's worth the follow on social media, because if you want to be connected to anything going on athletically in Bonner County or Boundary County, he's your dude. He's well connected and he invests a lot of time.
Yep. One guy for 4 high schools: Bonners Ferry, Sandpoint, Clark Fork, Priest River. And he's trying to work in Newport, Washington, just over the border from Priest River eventually as well. I like that ambition, Max. That's good.
For punishment too. Yeah.
Yeah. Way to go. That's awesome. All right, let's start today's show with a recap of what happened at the state soccer tournaments this past week. We'll start with, we won't go in order like 6A, 5A, etc. We'll start with the teams that were out the quickest, and then we'll work our way up to the teams that lasted the longest. We did not have any state champions from the soccer pitch, boys or girls from North Idaho. A few teams got very close, but overall, still a very fun weekend of soccer competition. Let's start with the 4A girls, Ryan. This was at the Real Life Fields over in Post Falls. Coeur d'Alene Charter was the only team representing the North. They went 2-0 in just a brutal way. I mean, they had to play Fruitland right away in the opening round. They drop 1-0. And Fruitland is a team that averages like 5 or 6 goals per game. So they dropped that heartbreaker. Then they've got to turn around and play the number 3 seed, Sun Valley Community School, because Sun Valley got upset in the first round. And this one was a 2-2 draw through 2 overtimes. It goes to penalty kicks. Sun Valley wins 6-5 on PKs. And just like that, Coeur d'Alene Charter is out against the number 2 and the number 3 seed, although they lost by a goal and a penalty kick, essentially.
Yeah, Coeur d'Alene Charter is a great program, too. We know what they've had the historic success with that program, but you talk about, that was probably the deepest field in my mind in girls soccer. That bracket was absolutely stacked. And who was left on the backside of the bracket playing in the consolation rounds where you have Sun Valley Community School taking on Sugar Salem. Those are two, very dynamic teams. And, to go 2-0 the way they did, it doesn't slight their season at all, but I think that's just the way that the luck of the draw goes. And, it's an unfortunate seeding for them, but it doesn't ruin and taint a good season. It's just not obviously the finish that you want.
Yep. But they still went and competed incredibly well. And we're super proud of what the girls from Coeur d'Alene Charter were able to do, certainly. Okay, on the boys' side, Ryan, Lake City representing the North at the 6A boys state tournament. This was at Coeur d'Alene High School, so Lake City, ironically, having to play state matches on their rivals' field. They were the number 3 seed. They get knocked out by Owyhee in the first round, 2-1. Very tight game. It actually had gone final as we were talking on last week's show. Then they had to play Mountain View in a loser-out battle. They fall 4-0. You feel like Lake City probably just ran out of gas in the tank.
They went 2 in barbecue, as you would say, in the state tournament. But, yeah, that's just showing, I think, the level of the game that they had against Owyhee and, the back-and-forth affair that was, and Owyhee getting the win 2-1. And then, and Mountain View's, a good team. And that whole bracket is just – it was very top heavy, and it doesn't slight Lake City having a great season, but that's just a tough draw in that bracket, and doesn't take away a bad a good season or anything like that. But that's just like we talk about, like soccer, when you get to state in the state of Idaho, and you said it last week, any 8 of those teams, you really feel like they have a chance at realistically making the championship game.
Yeah. So those were the 2 tournaments where we had basically 2-and-outs. Now we're going to talk about 2 tournaments where we had teams come home with consolation trophies. Let's start on the girls' side. 6A girls tournament up in Sandpoint. The Lake City girls enter as the number 6 seed. They come home with the consolation trophy. They fell to Owyhee 2-1 in the opening round. No, that's not a misprint. Both the boys and girls from Lake City both fell to Owyhee 2-1 in the opening round at state, both in the 3-6 matchup. After that, Lake City knocks out Highland on penalty kicks. It was 1-1 through 2 OTs, and then Lake City wins 6-5 on PKs. And then they get past Bishop Kelly 1-0. This was Bishop Kelly's first time competing at state as a 6A program in soccer. And so Lake City had to beat Highland, and then they had to beat Bishop Kelly, but the T-Wolves get it done. They're coming home with the consolation trophy.
Yeah, that's a really good BK team too. And, that SIC this year in girls soccer was just flat outstanding. You look at the state champion being Rocky. BK, I believe, was one of the teams that pushed Rocky the most this year. Boise was really good. Owyhee was really good. That Timberline ended up getting the 4 seed. You look at the top 5 seeds were all from the same conference. That just kind of screams what that district was able to do in Lake City to come away with a big win over BK 1-0 in that consolation championship match. That's awesome. So, that's something you can hang your hat on and say, hey, at least, we usurped one of the top teams from South Idaho and came home with some hardware.
Yeah, sophomore Catherine Kovac scores the lone goal for Lake City in that 1-0 win over Bishop Kelly. And then if we pivot to the 5A boys tournament, Ryan, Moscow, the number 8 seed Moscow comes home with the consolation trophy as well. They fell to the eventual state champs from Wood River 2-0 in the first round. By the way, that was the tightest anybody had played Wood River until the championship. Moscow put up a better fight in the first round against Wood River than Blackfoot did in the semis. Wood River blitzed Blackfoot 5-0 in the semis. And then Valley View, actually, I got to take back my words. I was talking a lot of smack on Valley View last week. They beat Wood River 3-1 for the 5A boys soccer championships. But Moscow, they lose to Wood River 2-0 in the opening round, the number 1 seed. Then they've got to play Sandpoint for the 5 billionth time. They win that 3-2 to set up a battle with Century, a team that came into state with like 2 losses on the season. I think it was like 2 or 3. It wasn't a lot. They beat Century 2-1, and Moscow wins the consolation title for the boys.
Yeah, and that's a big deal for the conference. I mean, obviously, I think Sandpoint or Moscow, either one of them could end up, with trophies. It was just unfortunate they had to play each other again, like you said, for the billionth time this year. Those are 2 programs pretty evenly matched. But Moscow to get that win in the consolation championship, come home with hardware. I mean, that's a nice little feather in the cap on a season that, in a very tough league. I mean, the 5As and 6As play together, and that's just an absolute meat grinder to go through in that regular season, and to come away with some hardware at the end and end the season. You're one of 3 teams statewide that get to end the year with a win. So that's a good note for the Bears to put a wrap on this 2024 season.
Yeah, Sandpoint fell to Blackfoot 5-1 in the opening round, and then 3-2 to Moscow to go 2-0 there as well. All right, so 2 state tournaments where the teams went 0-2, 2 state tournaments where teams won consolation trophies. Let's go to 2 state tournaments where we had teams bring home second place trophies, not quite first place, but they're playing for championships. Let's start with the 5A girls. This was at Hillcrest over in East Idaho. Sandpoint and Pocatello in the championship matchup. Pocatello the 3, Sandpoint the 4. Pocatello gets the 1-0 victory, and so congratulations to the Thunder. Somebody predicted that on the pick 6. I can't remember who that was. That was me. I also believe because Lewiston was at this tournament too, right? They were the 2 seed. They beat Wood River 5-0 in the first round. Then they fell to Pocatello in the semifinals 5-0. But they brought home the 3rd place trophy as well. Did Lewiston? They beat Middleton 3-1. So Lewiston comes home with the 3rd place trophy. Sandpoint comes home with the 2nd place trophy. On last week's show, Ryan, I said, this is going to sound weird, but I think it's more likely that Sandpoint is playing for that championship than Lewiston is. I just, every once in a while when I'm right about something, I have to come back around and brag on it.
You called it. I mean, and Lewiston to get the win over the 1 seed. I mean, that's a big deal, getting the win over Middleton. That's a really good team that beat Idaho Falls 6-1 in the first round. And then Sandpoint took out Middleton on PKs in the semis to get into the championship round. And then Lewiston ended up clipping Middleton 3-1 in that 3rd place match. I chose the Bengals as the dark horse to win it all. They end up taking 3rd, so I don't look too bad. I mean, to come home with a trophy, and then Sandpoint getting the runner-up trophy. I mean, that's a great Bulldog group, and winning the way they did against Middleton, and then taking Pokey to the wire. I mean, they had their chances in that match, and I heard that was probably one of the more competitive games of the entire weekend, that Sandpoint Pokey match. And Pocatello, hats off to them to get the win, but Sandpoint certainly from the 4 line to make it into that through the semis and then into the final and play Pokey so tough. I think of all the seeding in all the brackets, this one obviously is the one that got probably the closest, I would say, as far as how things kind of shook out in the seeding lines and the way it worked out. But certainly great seasons from both the Bengals and from the Bulldogs.
Yeah, Lexi Wells scores for Pocatello in the first half, 31st minute. So they had that 1-0 lead early and then really played a good, strong defensive game. Pocatello outshot Sandpoint on goal 10-3. That really is the difference right there. I mean, if you're getting 10 cracks at the goal and you're only allowing the opponent 3 shots on goal, I mean, your chances of winning increase significantly. Now, Sandpoint did score in the opening half, but the goal was waved off. And I think Sandpoint's still wondering why. It was one of those, I'm not sure what you called there. They called an infraction against Sandpoint, wiped out a goal that potentially, could have had it tied 1-1, but regardless, it was a great season for Sandpoint. They bring home the 2nd place trophy. And then finally at the 4A boys state soccer tournament in Post Falls at the real life soccer fields. First of all, shout out to Bonners Ferry. They lost to Teton 1-0 in a very competitive first round match. They then beat American Falls 4-1. to get to the consolation final against Sun Valley Community School. We know what kind of program the Cutthroats have. They have won multiple state championships in their history. They lose 2-1. Very tight matchup for Bonners Ferry, and congratulations to the Badgers for playing on Saturday. That's always the goal at state. But for Coeur d'Alene Charter, the number 2 seed, I'll admit, hey, I was bragging about how I was right with the Sandpoint girls. I'll admit I was wrong on the Coeur d'Alene Charter boys. I was not very bullish on the Panthers' chances coming into the state tournament. And yet Coeur d'Alene Charter nearly pulled it off against a mighty, ferocious Wendell team. They fall 1-0 in the championship, though. So Coeur d'Alene Charter beats American Falls 2-0 first round. They get past Teton 1-0 in the semis. They fall 1-0 to Wendell in the championship. This would potentially have been the first boys soccer championship in school history at Coeur d'Alene Charter.
Yeah, and it was their first appearance in the state championship game. So, I mean, that's a big deal for that crew. But one off that, like you said, that Wendell team really, really good. And, they had been just absolutely steamrolling teams on their path to the state tournament, and then opening the first round 5-3 win over Weiser, and then they got a close one over McCall Donnelly. Coeur d'Alene Charter just couldn't surmount the peak of the mountain there and usurp that number 1 seed, but they certainly proved their 2 seeding going into the tournament and playing Wendell extremely tough, even though in a loss in the championship game, but still second place is not a bad season at all.
This game was scoreless until the 55th minute. Cesar Morales scores for Wendell in that 1-0 victory, but a fantastic season for the Panthers overall, to be certain. And that puts a wrap on state soccer, Ryan. State championship events coming up this week. We have the state volleyball tournaments, of course, and programming note, as soon as we're done here, Ryan, we will be airing our state volleyball tournament preview special that I recorded with Lindsay Togiai Afuk earlier this week. That is going to start airing just before 11 o'clock Pacific time. And we break down all the brackets. We talk about the teams to watch, the players to watch, just kind of quickly. Let's kind of quickly handicap how we think these volleyball tournaments could go. 6A, Coeur d'Alene comes in as the 6th seed. I'll be honest, it's going to be tough. You've got Madison, Eagle, Owyhee, Centennial. You've got so many great teams. Coeur d'Alene only played 1 team in this entire tournament field this year, Ryan. It was Rigby, the number 8 seed, and they lost that matchup. So Coeur d'Alene is kind of the unknown coming in. I think they can compete for that, 3rd place trophy, but to break through the upper echelon. And I didn't even mention Skyview. I mean, there's a lot of big dogs at the table here at this 6A tournament.
Yeah, I mean, Coeur d'Alene's got their work cut out for them. They're in the underdog role, and I know that there was an article about it in the Coeur d'Alene Press about them kind of embracing that role, the unknown going into this one. Playing in the the new venue, the Mountain America Center there in Idaho Falls. That's going to be a big deal for them and a cool setting. So, can the Vikings pull shocker in a few games if they can match up well, especially at the net with their size? I mean, I think the Vikings have a puncher's chance, but like you said, that Owyhee team's really good. I mean, they got a really tough first round match. And then even look at Rocky at the 7th seed. I mean, this bracket's pretty loaded, like you were talking about. So, I mean, Coeur d'Alene has their work cut out for them. If they're going to play in a hardware match, playing for some trophy, they're going to have to be on their A game all weekend long.
Yep. 5A tournament also taking place at the Mountain America Center over in Idaho Falls. First IHSAA championship events to be held at the Mountain America Center. When it's not hosting championship events, Boise State has played a men's basketball game there the past season. They're going to do it again this year. But mostly what it's known for, Ryan, it's the home of the minor league hockey team, the Idaho Spud Kings.
It's an awesome name.
Yeah.
Actually, that'd be a fun jersey or hat to have. But yeah, it's a cool venue. And you talk about 5A. This is our favorite team. I think the from the north is the number 1 overall seed, and this Lakeland group is very ready to go. I mean, they're at full strength. They're ready to get on, foot on the gas, all gas, no brakes going through this tournament. Can they run the table through? They've got tough matchup. I would say the second round, that Bonneville-Middleton matchup could be pretty tough for them if they're going to get pushed there. You got Pokey on the opposite side at the 2 seed. I know that, Lindsay's going to talk with you about this in the upcoming preview show, but I really do like Lakeland's chances in this tournament. If they can play together and play, up to the level that they've been playing this year when they're at full strength. I mean, that is an extremely tough out are the Hawks.
Yeah, a very nice article in the Coeur d'Alene Press this morning about this Lakeland volleyball team and sort of the injuries they had to overcome. Zaya Munier missed, a portion of the season with an injury. She is now back. Coach Kelsey Badger basically says, we've missed a couple of players in and out of the lineup. We had to call up some of our freshmen from the JV squad, and she said it's made us better. And I totally agree with that. They did go to that Rocky Mountain invite, and they dropped matches to both Bonneville and Pocatello, but I feel pretty good about Lakeland, adjusting. And actually, it's nice to see the opponent with your own eyes. So I feel pretty confident there. Let the record show. I've been on the Lakeland bandwagon all season long, all the way back before matches even started getting played. Everyone's going to go now, oh yeah, Baney picked the number 1 overall seed. Yeah, way to go out on a limb. No, you and I have both been on this Lakeland bandwagon long before they got the number 1 seed. But how cool is it that a team from North Idaho got the number 1 seed? That very rarely happens.
Yeah, we finally bucked the old Rodney Dangerfield trend of just don't get any respect around here. To have 11 losses on the year and still be the number 1 seed is a big deal. But those 11 losses, I mean, you look at the schedule that they played, very, very rigorous, and playing that schedule not at full strength. A lot of times, like, this team is extremely battle tested. I don't think there's going to be much jitters for this Lakeland squad.
Yep. Hey, Max wants to know in the chat, Ryan, are we going to predict the volleyball state champions? Now, Lindsay and I did our state championship predictions on our volleyball preview special. Again, that's coming up as soon as we're done here at 11 o'clock this morning, or just before 10:55, I guess is the time I set it for, because I wasn't fully awake when I set that on the schedule. So I set it for 10:55 a.m. So I will re-give my championship predictions here, my champion predictions. And then if you want to hear Lindsay's, because Lindsay knows more about volleyball than both of us combined. She made her picks as well. But Ryan, I'll get your picks on the record here too. We'll circle back next week and see how right we were. Let's go 6A. I picked Skyview on the volleyball preview show. What are you going with?
Yeah, I'm going to go out on a limb and join you there. I mean, that's a really risky pick to take Skyview. So, yeah, I'm going to have Skyview at the 6A. I'll take Lakeland at 5A.
Okay, and that's also what I did. I took Lakeland, of course. Can't back away from that now. So, okay, let's go. 4A tournament is going to be held. I'm trying to remember this off the top of my head.
It's all at Lake City High School.
Okay, Lake City. Perfect. Right here in North Idaho. Bonners Ferry coming down from the north. They won the Intermountain League. They are the number 8 seed. Like this is going to be a tall
7 seed. Yeah, they're playing Fruitland in the first round. That's a tough task because that Fruitland team is really good, and that's actually going to be my pick for the state championship. I know the Badgers probably won't be too happy with me taking Fruitland, but yeah, this Fruitland team's really good. Bear Lake's really good too, but I'm going to take Fruitland in the upset from the 2 line to win it all.
See, and Lindsay took Bear Lake, and I took Fruitland. You and I are mirroring our picks so far. I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing, but that's what I went with there. 3A tournament. This is cool. It's going to be at Memorial Gym, University of Idaho in Moscow. That old rustic gym that's just going to be a great atmosphere for these volleyball girls. Ryan, have you been to Memorial Gym?
I have. I don't know if they've changed out the orange lights yet or not, but I have been in Memorial Gym, and last time I was there, the lighting is it's different planet like. It's so hopefully they've updated the lighting in there to where it's no longer orange. But yeah, no, it's a cool rustic venue. It kind of takes you way back to days of old. It's been around. I think it was built in like the 30s, if I'm not mistaken. So it's a cool facility that the 3As are going to get a play in.
Yeah, this is going to be awesome. From this 3A tournament, we have Grangeville, the 3 seed at the CIL district tournament, won the district championship. Remember, that was that crazy tournament where Kellogg, the top seed, went 2 and out. Kellogg and Orofino both lost in the semifinals and had to play each other right away in a loser-out game. Orofino had a chance to advance. They lost the state play-in match on Saturday to Nampa Christian. So it's only Grangeville. And despite being the number 3 seed in their own conference, Ryan, Grangeville comes in as the number 5 seed overall in this tournament. So I think they've got a good chance to compete for that top 3 trophy.
Absolutely. Yeah. And I mean, this Grangeville team, they had to do it the hard way coming from that 3 seed line. They got a win over Orfino 3-2. They beat Priest River 3-1. Granted, they didn't have to play the number 1 Kellogg team because Priest River took care of business. We talked about that last week. But this Grangeville team's coming in tested. And then you look at, the other conferences, there's some good teams out there. Melba, obviously, we know how good they are. They coasted through their bracket. I don't even know if they dropped a set. I don't think they won 3-0, 3-0, 3-0 going through their district tournament, rolling into state. And then Malad, much the same. I mean, they went 3-0, 3-0, 3-0 through their district tournament as well. So it's a tough go. And then Ryrie's in their own right. I mean, Ryrie's playing tough too. So there's some power in that bracket. That if Grangeville is going to get a trophy, I mean, they're going to have to beat some juggernauts on their way on that path through.
Yep. So what's your championship prediction for the 3A tournament?
Yeah, this is so hard, but I mean, it's going out on a limb. I'm going to take Melba, 1 seed. Melba's so good. But I do see Malad and Ambrose both being very competitive. Malad can make some noise there, which, that wouldn't surprise me to see a 1-2 in the final, and actually playing for that, true second place. So that Melba team's really good though. And I have the Mustangs winning it.
I too took Melba. I feel like our picks will probably mirror each other. The further we get down, the less predictable it becomes, in my opinion. 1A, hey, it's Troy's world, and we are just living in it. The Troy Trojans going for, I believe, their 4th championship in a row. They look very solid again. Hey, let's give a shout out to Prairie, huh? Prairie knocking out Potlatch 3-0 for second place at the White Pine District Tournament, earning that second spot to state as well. So let's start with Troy. We both like Troy to win this tournament, right?
Yeah, Troy's my favorite. I don't know Butte County might be the only other team out there that's going to push them, but I mean, Genesis Prep, they're playing Troy in the first round. I mean, coming in as the 8th seed, that's a heck of a draw for the Jags. That doesn't take away from a great season. I mean, and they're not out yet. I mean, they can still get a trophy and play from the backside of that bracket. But Troy, if you talk about untouchables, when you go through, I know in wrestling we talk about that often. That this Troy team is as dominant as it gets. So I'm going to take Troy as my favorite to win it all, to get that 4th in a row. You look at the history of that program and what they do. I mean, winning championships is what that program does in volleyball. And, this tournament being held at Jerome, so our friend Scott Burton gets to be the host of this one, which is going to be fun for that school and for the program down there. And Troy, I look at them being the overall overwhelming favorite, and they're going to continue their dominance.
Yep. I'm excited to see what he thinks about Troy, when it's all said and done after seeing him with his eyes. Let's talk about Prairie real quick. Give them a quick shout out. They knocked out Potlatch. So they're headed to state. Coach Lexi Schumacher, Coach Julie Schumacher. Lexi is on the team, has done a phenomenal job with this group of girls. And then probably the coolest story is Genesis Prep going to state for the first time in school history. Ryan, I was there when they won the district championship last week at North Idaho College. I will give props to Wallace. Wallace battled them fiercely. It went to the 5th set, 3-2. It was one of those awkward kind of situations. I felt like Bob Costas at the 1986 World Series. Have you ever heard that story? So it was game 6 of the 1986 World Series. Red Sox were playing the Mets. They had that big lead late in the game in the 9th inning. And so Bob Costas was in the Red Sox clubhouse with the championship trophy all ready to present it. They had they started putting up the plastic covering for the champagne spraying and stuff. And then the Red Sox blew it and the Mets won. And they had to rip down everything and take the trophy out before the team got in there. So I'm sitting there courtside last Wednesday, and they've got the district and conference championship trophies there. But the caveat was it wasn't a true winner-take-all district championship. If Wallace had won, it would have set up a district championship final Saturday night at the real-life courts in Post Falls. And so it got to that 5th set, and I'm kind of looking at Jessica Whaley, the tournament director. She's the AD at Genesis Prep as well. And I'm just what do we do with these trophies if Wallace does the unthinkable and wins here? And so Fortunately, Genesis Prep won. It didn't have to be awkward with the trophies sitting there and nobody able to take them. But the joy, the celebration, the jubilation that Genesis Prep had after winning that district championship was awesome.
Yeah, no, that's a cool deal. And I mean, I know, I've got relatives with their kids in the school and obviously go to real life, and how cool it is for that entire community over at Genesis Prep to get that. Anytime any team there makes it to state, I mean, it's a huge deal. And for it to be the first time in school history, it doesn't take a rocket scientist to figure out this is one of the bigger moments in school history. So we're rooting for the Jags to play on Saturday. I mean, that's the ultimate goal, is you want to be playing for meaningful games the third day. You don't want to go 2 in barbecue. And they've got a puncher's chance. That Genesis Prep team does. They're scrappy, and they've played a tough schedule. They played up in a lot of their games. I mean, they went through their league schedule and took care of business, but earning that outright bid to state is huge for that program, that they didn't have to play a play-in game. So yeah, I mean, it's anything can happen at state. You look at it and you're like, man, it's, you start chewing your fingernails a little bit, but this is a team that they can compete too.
Yep. And then what was kind of interesting is they always announce the all league or all conference teams after, the tournament is finished. Neither district champion from District 1, Court of Christ at the 1A level, nor Genesis Prep at the 2A level had the league MVP. The MVPs were actually Tyla Lambert from Lakeside, and for the 1As, it was actually Chloe Dorman from Kootenai. It was kind of cool when I was announcing who the league MVP was, because Kootenai was right next to me. I was sitting right by their bench. And I said, and your 2024 MVP from the Kootenai Warriors. And I just hear Chloe Dorman goes, "No way. Are you freaking kidding me?" Like, I could hear her. And so that was kind of cool too. It was totally unexpected for her. And so Chloe Dorman from Kootenai, congratulations on being the league MVP too. That was cool.
Yeah, congrats. And that's awesome. That's a big deal.
Yep. All right, 1A tournament. Court of Christ won District 1. They lost to St. John Bosco in a state play-in match on Saturday. I hate when it's north on north crime. Yep. And we're eating both ends from the middle, but St. John Bosco goes. The Patriots advance to state. Congratulations there. Genesee is also going to state as well after winning the White Pine League. But this, again, is a very fierce bracket with some really good teams at the top.
Yep. So at 1A, I mean, Genesee, they're the 4 seed. You look at other parts around that bracket, St. John Bosco, the other team from the north, at the 8 spot. Rockland's really good. They've had a great season. Horseshoe Bend is having a great year as well. Mackey's been doing well. Carey's one of those teams. They're at a 6 seed, and they've been having a great season as well. I'm going to take Genesee in the upset in the semis. I think Genesee is going to take care of Rockland. They'll end up in the final match against Horseshoe Bend, but I'm going to take Horseshoe Bend to win it all at 1A. So hopefully that's some bulletin board material for the Bulldogs to pull the upset.
Yeah, for sure. I also took Horseshoe Bend over Rockland, and Lindsay, our volleyball expert, she coaches at Rockland. So I told her, I'm like, I hate doing this to you every year, but until you guys actually do it and knock off Horseshoe Bend, I've got to take the Mustangs. So, okay, our picks are the exact same. So this will be easy to keep track of. Wow. We're either going to look really smart or we're really dumb. So can't wait for that. Okay. State cross country is this week as well. Saturday, Eagle Island State Park in Boise, of course. Or maybe it's in Eagle.
It's in Eagle, yeah.
Okay. I looked at the weather forecast for this weekend. It's supposed to be rainy there. So I don't know, 70% chance of precipitation. Could be a cold, rainy cross-country championships this Saturday at Eagle Island State Park.
Well, Coeur d'Alene boys, they can run on the moon. I don't think it's going to matter. They're gonna run well. So the Coeur d'Alene boys, they're fast and good. But it was cool. I mean, Kellogg got the 3A championship for cross country, which was cool at the district meet. So that's cool. That group, they're represented well, and obviously Priest Rivers got a great runner on the boys' side as well. That he was the medalist, Lamanna. So there's some good athletes from the north that are going to be representing really well come state meet time this weekend.
Yeah, obviously the storylines we're looking at from state cross country, Coeur d'Alene boys, can they repeat? all signs point to yes, it's going to be them in Rocky Mountain for sure. And then some individuals. Well, Logos. Logos is always tough in the team race, certainly. But then it's going to be, we're watching individuals. And how about this? Max says, my prediction, Braden Lamanna wins the 3A title. He's got legit. A good shot.
He's got a great shot. Yeah, absolutely. And I think Timberlake gets represented pretty well too with the 4A. So there's going to be there will be some very nice finishes from individual athletes up north, but also some teams. I think we're going to see some teams up on top coming with some state championships coming home.
Yep, it's going to be a lot of fun. And of course, Marlo Herford, our great cross-country writer here at IdahoSports.com, she'll have a full recap of everything that went down at the state meet this weekend. All right, let's wrap up quickly with the football games we were at last Friday. Ryan, you were in Lewiston for basically the Inland Empire League championship between Lakeland and Lewiston. The Hawks win the title. They get the number 3 seed overall and a home playoff game this week. Lewiston, in a grave injustice, has to hit the road to go to Twin Falls. And remind me, I'm trying to remember off the top of my head, Lakeland is going to be the 3 seed. They're going to bring in the number 14 seed, which is Shelley, right?
Shelley, yep. They're playing Shelley Friday night at Corbett Field in Rathdrum. That's going to be, Shelley is one of those teams that nobody knows anything about. It's like, they kind of been operating and anonymously throughout the year. They don't have the flashiest record, but if you watch them on film, they're not a bad team. I mean, they're physical running the ball. So, is their starting running back going to be in the lineup? We don't know. I mean, we saw him go out late in that game last week where he was helped off the field. So we'll see, if Shelley's at full strength. But Lakeland, I'll tell you this, that Lewiston-Lakeland game it was such a good high school game. For 3 quarters, that game was just, knotted within a score for most of the ballgame until Lakeland blew the doors open late in the game. And this is the thing that I was telling Coach Milks for the Hawks was like, you guys as a coaching staff, how good you are, but also you don't really know how good you are because you don't watch everybody else as much as you watch yourselves. That Lakeland offensive line, you talk about a unit that you can lean on. That is a team that, a group within that unit that just absolutely grinds on people. And that I really look at Lakeland's offensive line, and the play of Hayden Benson Friday night was absolutely impressive. He was our IdahoSports.com player of the game. This Lakeland team is going to be a tough out. They're hard to prepare for, especially as their passing game has been opening up. They've got some great guys, that can go downfield like Burmeister and Jace Taylor. We've seen a few times this year also. There's talent on that group and then the defensive front seven is impressive. They're not big, but they're fast. And they're physical. They love to hit. And they're going to be without freshman Nate Bavakwa. He's recovering from a neck injury. It's good to hear that there's a good prognosis there because I know there was some fear with some significant issues with his neck in a game a few weeks ago when he got hurt. So he was in Seattle last week, and then I saw a post from his mom that he's going to get a full recovery within 6 months. So that's great to see and great to hear. But this is a Lakeland team that's going to be, I look at them, they're realistically a semifinal team, in my opinion, just based off of how well they control the ball and they just don't turn it over.
Yeah, I did finally get some intel on Shelley. I watched their film from their first game of the season and then their last game. Just a quick pro tip. That's probably not the right way to do it. But their first game of the year, they were running this Maryland I, basically, where the quarterback's under center and then there are 3 backs in a row behind him. And then their last game of the year, I looked and they've got like a shotgun spread. And I'm like, what in the heck happened here? I got some intel from a coach. I said, what's going on with Shelley? I have no idea. And he said, Shelley is pretty banged up right now. Their 2 best running backs, both out with injury. And so that definitely changes the calculus a little bit. I don't want to misquote here. So let me pull up the text I got. Basically, okay, their 2 best backs both tore their ACLs, and they've had awful injury luck. So that's rough. It certainly looks like it's going to be a good time for Lakeland. I think Lewiston's going to go on the road and probably win as well at Twin Falls in the opening round. Twin Falls has also had bad injury luck. Their starting quarterback has been out most of the season as well. So
and Lewiston's going to be without Noah Carpenter. He got hurt in that Lakeland game also. So it's a battle of attrition to make it through the regular season. There's other teams that are favorites that are missing some significant players too in other brackets. So, it's going to be what can your team as the collective do rather than the individual. So there's going to be, I'm excited. There's a good slate of games this weekend too. But Lewis, I will say this one thing is that Lewiston facility, when it's finished, oh my goodness, the LC Valley is so lucky to have that. And Lewiston School District, I mean, you talk about an absolute gift that P1FCU provided for providing that facility. It is unbelievable. That is an unbelievable facility that they're going to have down there once it's completely done. But that was an awesome event, and thanks to the athletic director, Doug Henderson at Lewiston, for getting us set up there on Friday night and allowing us to kind of showcase what they've got going on. That Lewiston new facility at Lewiston, everything, the gym, the weight room, everything about that school is just unbelievable, and one of the marquee facilities in the state of Idaho.
Yep, pretty remarkable for sure. The game I was at was for the 1A North Star League Championship last Friday night in Silverton. Me and Stetson Spooner, former Mullen St. Regis coach, were on the call. Both of these teams were missing their starting running backs. Jamari Pion for Lakeside was out, and Alex Grubbs from Wallace was out of the lineup as well. This was a wild game. Lakeside was up 2 scores in the fourth quarter, and I'll admit, second year in a row, I was thinking in my head, boy, it sure looks like Lakeside's going to win this thing and go to the playoffs. Two years ago, last season, of course, Clark Fork had the greatest comeback in school history and came from behind to beat Lakeside, a game I was at. This year, Wallace makes up the deficit, down 2 scores. They march down the field. They throw a touchdown pass to Julian Davis to get within 1 score. Then they force a turnover on downs. Lakeside couldn't convert, so Wallace gets the ball back. They march it down the field. Cooper Miller scores on a touchdown run for Wallace, and all of a sudden the game is tied. They get the ball back a third time. They go and take the lead on a pick 6 at midfield. So after Wallace has tied the game, Cooper Miller ties it up on the touchdown run. Like the very next play, Tyson Charlie is picked off over the middle by Julian Davis. He takes it back 55 yards the other way for the pick 6. In the span of about 10 minutes of real life time, Wallace went from down 2 scores to up a score. It was just incredible. And then from there, even at the end, Lakeside still had one more shot. Tyson Charlie picked off by Julian Davis at the goal line to basically seal up the game. He was our IdahoSports.com player of the game. He came on for a post-game interview as well, and he said he tunes into the Prepcasts every week, and they knew the deal going in. They had to win or they were going to be out of the playoffs.
Yeah, and we talk about max preps and everything and how the rankings work, and it's like you look at a team that's got 2 losses on the year in Lakeside to miss the playoffs is just like, I mean, that's soul crushing for the Knights. A really good team, and to not make the playoff, and then hats off to Wallace to take care of business when it needed to be done and do it the hard way, coming from behind to get the win. Julian Davis is one of those players that we've been able to kind of see mature as a freshman and just climb the ladder. Every year he got better and better. And he's one of he doesn't get talked about a ton because you've got so much talent in the bigger schools in North Idaho. He doesn't get a lot of notoriety. Kid can ball. I don't care where he's at. He's probably going to start whatever school he would go to, whether it's Wallace or Lake City, he would start. So that talks about the talent that some of these smaller schools have. And Cooper Miller at quarterback, he's a stud. He can flat sling it. He's only a freshman. What they're going to be able to do as they mature is like this Wallace team, they're going to be good for a few more years. They're not going anywhere anytime soon, but I'm excited to see what they can do in the playoffs. They're going to get a chance to host a game next week. So that's going to be exciting to see.
Yep. And Deary also qualified for the state playoffs by defeating Genesee last Friday. Deary will have a first-round game Friday at 5:00 against Cascade, the last team in that squeezed Lakeside out. I'm with you. I think Lakeside should have been in the playoffs. Wallace Miners Athletics says, thanks for coming up, Idaho Sports. Anytime. Thanks for being such great hosts. We had a great time there for sure. So, okay. We've got to get out of here in the next 5 minutes because the volleyball preview is starting.
Broadcast button up against us. Yeah,
I know, right? Hey, real quick, Inland Empire League swim meet was held at the University of Idaho in Moscow this past week as well. There were, I think, 9 teams there competing: Lake City, Coeur d'Alene, Post Falls, Sandpoint, Lewiston, Moscow, Lakeland, and then a couple of smaller schools in Kellogg and Wallace. Coeur d'Alene goes undefeated, boys and girls. This was a series of duels where you basically swim and then your scores are calculated against every other team. Sandpoint only lost to Coeur d'Alene, and Lake City only lost to Sandpoint and Coeur d'Alene. Overall, this was a really fun meet at the U of I pool.
Yeah. No, a great event. And, next week is the Region 1 meet, which will be right back at the University of Idaho. And I know that, the swim, anytime we talk swimming, you start getting alarm bells and people's ears start perking up in the swim community that we never talk about them enough. So we're trying to give you some love. But yeah, there's some great individual efforts too. I mean, Lewiston was even on the board in the 200 IM, finishing third. It was Antonich. And then, you've got Coeur d'Alene, I think, is just looking dominant. Can Coeur d'Alene finally usurp Lake City at the top of the heap in 6A? I mean, that's going to be the question as we enter the postseason. So, and then Sandpoint, I think Sandpoint's in 5A. They're a contender. So there's a lot of good stuff going on in the pool in North Idaho, and we'll see how the region meet shakes out next week.
Yeah, your individual winners on the girls' side, 200-yard freestyle went to Camden Cotant from Coeur d'Alene. The 200-yard individual medley went to freshman Lillian Sawyer from Lewiston. To the boys 200-yard freestyle went to Noah Crossler from Moscow. Boys 200-yard IM went to Jace Voller from Coeur d'Alene. You had the girls 50-yard free. Quinn Taylor from Lake City won that. The boys 50-yard free was won by Isaac Thorpe from Coeur d'Alene. 100-yard butterfly on the girls' side, Reagan Grenier, freshman from Coeur d'Alene, wins that. On the boys' side, Eli Shaw from Lake City won there. 100-yard freestyle on the girls' side, Reina Montecchi from Sandpoint won. She's just a sophomore. The boys' 100-yard free went to Isaac Thorpe from Coeur d'Alene. The 500-yard free, that is an endurance race. Ava DeLue from Sandpoint won there. On the boys' side, it was Andrew Davis from Coeur d'Alene. The 200-yard freestyle relay went to Coeur d'Alene on the girls' side. On the boys' side, it went to Coeur d'Alene. The 100-yard backstroke, Aaron Griffith from Lake City for the girls. For the boys, Noah Crossler from Moscow, double winner. The 100-yard breaststroke went to Quinn Taylor from Lake City. For the girls, Filippo Greggio from Lewiston on the boys' side. I'm probably butchering all of these names, and I'm really sorry. 400-yard freestyle relay won by the Lake City girls and the Coeur d'Alene boys. And then the last relay was the 200-yard relay, the very first event of the day. That was won by the Lake City girls and the Sandpoint boys. So way to go, all of our great swimmers.
And we'll be excited we'll recap the Region 1 meet next week. So we'll go through all of our psychoticness that we've got going on of state volleyball and state football. And then we're setting the table for state swimming and state cross country results too. So busy couple weeks coming up here on the North Idaho Prepcast.
Yep, the push is real. We are in it. So thanks for tuning into the North Idaho Prepcast, everybody. Don't forget to check out our state volleyball preview starting now on the IdahoSports.com YouTube channel, Facebook page, and X account. For Ryan Scaggs, I'm Brandon Baney. We'll see you next time on IdahoSports.com.